During the self-quarantine life, my life has mostly consisted of three things. And those things are Netflix, the Calm app, and looking for houses with my wife. Now, we've been looking for houses for about a year and a half now, and when we were watching a show, this beautiful lakefront house came up in one of the shows that we're watching, and my wife looked at me and said, "Hey, wouldn't you love to have a view like that?" And I said, "Oh yeah, it looks great. We could use the Calm app, which is a meditation app out there." And she made a good point. She looked at me and she said, "We wouldn't need the Calm app if we lived there." And that made me think of this idea of modern times and all the incoming information and noise and distractions that are being dumped and piled on us day after day. And that's why meditation, mindfulness is so crucial for the modern person who's trying to make sure that they're managing their anxiety and regret and the thoughts that are constantly bouncing around in our head. Most of our history as human beings for the past 300, 400,000 years is not used to this level of incoming information and the amount of noise that is drowning us on a daily basis. So most humans before us didn't need meditation apps. They didn't need guided meditations. But as an avid meditator for the past 5 years, it's been an essential tool to me. And navigating this current pandemic, it's been essential for both my wife and I to take time and make sure we're relating to our thoughts in the most productive manner. And that's what this podcast is about. The podcast today is going about being about dealing with the current environment and looking at the opportunity that we all have to structure our environment in a way that strengthens our mental health and puts guidelines around health, well-being, and happiness. We all have this opportunity of working from home. And for those of you that don't have that opportunity, I want to thank you for your service, because you're an essential employee, whether you're a healthcare provider, which is, my wife is one of those people, a first responder, or someone working at a grocery store. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And I hope some of the advice and guidelines that I lay out is applicable to you as well, when you have the chance to take a step back and recuperate from all of your great work. But for the majority of us that have the opportunity to work from home and structure our environment that is conducive to our well-being, we must have a hierarchy when it comes to how we're structuring things. And to me, when it comes to our mental health and well-being, it comes down to three things that we're going to build off of. It comes down to sleeping well, eating well, and moving well. And in order to do this, we have to make these three things our priority. And what's helpful for me is to reverse engineer my schedule accordingly. So I like to use a Google Calendar. I like to have it on my phone, and I like to start the week every Monday on blocking off all the essential things that I cannot make a negotiation with, of making sure that these three things get done. So if you have a calendar, make sure you're blocking out 8 hours of sleep and making it a non-negotiable. You need to give your body the chance to rebuild itself. And getting 8 hours of sleep strengthens the immune system and allows you to fend off potential threats that your body's encountering. So 8 hours of sleep has to be a non-negotiable. Eating well. This is another thing. When I listen to the experts from our healthcare systems, physicians, and infectious disease experts, they all talk about how this is a crucial time to make sure that you're taking care of your physical health. And that starts with what you're putting into your body. How you eat, your diet is such an intimate process. You're taking something from the outside world, you're putting it in you, and it's converting itself to become you. This is also essential for your immune system. You must provide your body with the proper fuel and ingredients to bolster its ability to strengthen itself and to fend off incoming attacks. Eating well starts with planning. I like to use an app called Meal Prep Pro. That app has different nutrition guidelines. You can sign up for the keto. You can sign up for the plant-based, which I'm currently using. You can sign up for a standardized diet that includes meats, vegetables, and salads of the sorts. And having those apps and being able to curate your grocery list saves me a lot of time. And my wife and I, we consolidate our trips to the grocery store once. So we're one and done. We walk into the grocery store. We already know what we're getting. And we pick those things up. We prep the food. And we have food for the rest of the week that's inside of our freezer and inside of the refrigerator. So eating well, staying away from sugar, staying away from alcohol, making sure you're eating whole foods that actually come from the earth, right? So if you can grow it or if you can hunt it, that's what you should be eating. Other things that are artificial, stay away from them because they're not real. And in this pandemic, you need anything that's real to make sure you're bolstering your defenses against any incoming attacks. And then finally, move well. I know people don't have access to the gym. I don't think you need a squat rack or a bench press to move well. Moving well could be as merely as making sure you're walking every day. I like to walk early in the morning. I like to get in at least a half-hour walk outside at sunrise. Because when you wake up early and you expose yourself to natural sunlight, and it doesn't have to be an open sky with direct sunbeams beaming into your face. I live in Northeast Ohio. It's one of the most cloudiest spots in the United States. But being exposed to any natural light, especially in the morning, produces chemicals in your brain that kickstarts the circadian rhythm. And the circadian rhythm is your body's internal clock that lets it know at what time of the day that it is. So once the circadian rhythm kicks in, it is on a natural clock for about 16 hours. And as you start to get closer to that 16 hours, later towards the evening, your brain starts to produce melatonin. And melatonin is a natural chemical in your brain that helps you fall asleep and get into sleep at a much deeper and consistent rate. So making sure that you're moving well, preferably in the morning, preferably outside, getting natural sunlight is essential to your mental and physical well-being. Once you have those three pillars down, sleeping well, eating well, moving well, you next have to move into taking control of the incoming information. There's information coming from all over the place. Newspapers, news websites, TV news channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all of these things must be balanced in a way that is conducive to you. Don't give the control over your attention. Don't outsource it to someone else, because they will take control of it and they will leverage it in a commercial fashion. So after we're sleeping well, eating well, moving well, we want to curate incoming information. And that also includes phone calls and text messages. So the way to do this, to optimize your phone to curate incoming information, is that go through all of your contacts and mark the ones that are your favorite. So mark your parents, mark your grandparents, mark your significant other or your spouse, mark people that you work with, mark them as favorites, and then turn your phone onto airplane mode. So airplane mode is basically the setting where you're not going to get a notification from any incoming call or text unless it comes from someone that you've marked as a favorite. So make sure that you're doing that, so that way you're not being distracted by unnecessary calls or text messages. After you do that, move on to deleting all social media apps from your phone. It's so easy to just pick up your phone when you're bored to see if there's anything new out there. It's almost the same as when you are bored and you want to snack on something, so you keep opening up the refrigerator and there's no food that you want at the time in there. So you shut it, you go back on the couch, and 10 minutes later, you're back at the refrigerator checking it again. Well, don't do that mentally with your phone when it comes to social media. Delete it from your phone and use the desktop version of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I suggest using Twitter specifically during this time, and we'll get to that in a little while. But once you delete the social media apps from your phone, make sure that when you do use social media, make sure that it's on a laptop or a desktop view. Make it inconvenient for yourself to get on there and to get information. And I also suggest blocking out time to do that. So you want to make sure that you're controlling how you're using social media. And you can do that by blocking off time the day before to make sure you're staying consistent and disciplined in your usage. Don't go over a half hour worth of social media. After a half hour of social media use, you start see diminishing returns, and you're not really learning anything new. So limit yourself to 30 minutes a day. Put it on the calendar the day before. Use the desktop version, and do not get on it unless it's during the scheduled time. I know that it's hard, but it's easy to get swept away and to allow your attention to be outsourced by Twitter. Don't allow yourself to get into that groove. If you find yourself bored, go talk to someone who is at your house. And if there's no one that's at your house, call someone, call a loved one, call a friend. Or simply be bored. It's good to be bored. Giving you the space to be bored it allows you to play with your thoughts in a unique way that you can't do if you're mindlessly scrolling up and down Instagram. If you get so bored to the point that you can't take it, try to use that as an opportunity to meditate. Do some yoga, read some books, get creative, and don't get stuck scrolling up and down Twitter. When it comes to the platforms to use, I do suggest using Twitter, and I suggest using Twitter in a very strategic way. Stay away from the home feed. The home feed is not your feed. The home feed is incoming information that Twitter thinks that you're like. So it's using artificial intelligence to capture your attention. And that shouldn't be the goal of using any social media. The goal of using any social media should be to connect and engage and walk away from the platform a little more informed than you did when you used it. And the way to do that with Twitter, and being that Twitter right now is more important than Google because of the timeliness of the updates. Use things like Twitter list and Twitter search. So the Twitter list that I'm using right now, specifically for COVID-19, is found at Tim Ferriss. That's TimFerriss. If you go to his LinkedIn profile and look at his list, you can subscribe to his curated list of COVID-19 experts. It's filled with disease control experts, physicians, and economists. I found this to be a great source of information of keeping me up to date on the happenings around the world. Limit yourself to observing that list for 5 minutes, then jump on to Twitter search, coronavirus or COVID-19. And then what I like to do is I like to filter that at the local level. So I want to hear what people around my neighborhood, around my community, how are they feeling about the pandemic? What are some needs that they're going through? How could I potentially be of service to them? Search that for another 5 minutes, and then spend the next 20 minutes outreaching to people that you know on Twitter, or just search topics that you're interested in and limit yourself to 30 minutes. And then outside of that, spend time with loved ones, spend time with people that you normally are too busy to interact with. Make sure you're touching base with people in your life that don't have anyone else. Social interaction is crucial to maintaining mental health. So if you can, reach out to those that are in need, check up on them, see how they're holding up, and use it as an opportunity to learn, listen, and just be there for them. Be that conscious space for them in this troubling time. And for you, the best thing that you can do right now is to make sure that you're staying healthy. Stay healthy, stay at home, so that way not only you limit your own risk of catching coronavirus, but then you also lower the risk of other people catching it as well. So with that being said, thank you so much for all of the hard work that you're doing. Thank you for bearing through this challenging time. And to me, looking at history and seeing where we come from the greatest humans that have ever lived. We come from an unbroken chain of DNA that has fought tooth and nail, not only against other animals and against other people, but against diseases such as this. And we come from the people that prevailed and survived and made it past this. And that is our makeup. That's in our DNA. And that's what we're going to do in this situation. We are going to have challenges along the way. But those challenges are going to be learning opportunities to learn from those that we love and those that we care about and those that are our neighbors, to respect those who during this time are going to exit this experience, what we can do for them and for their legacy and for the imprint that their spirit leaves behind with us. What we can do for them is to provide them with dignity and carry on in a way that justifies the lessons that they taught us and that we could take from them in the time that they have shared with us. That's the best way we can move forward, and that's the best way we can grow and get better as a result of this. And we will get better. And technologically, we're going to get stronger. Economically, we're going to get stronger, and spiritually, as a collective whole, we're going to get stronger, and we're going to know a lot more about who we are and how we're all connected as a result of this. So again, thank you for being you. Make sure that you're staying well and staying calm. Thank you very much, and have a next week.